You are listening to the In Between Sales Calls podcast with Derek Shebby, episode 1. Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is podcast number 1. Woo! This is Derek, and today we're going to talk about the one secret that top performers do every single day that makes sure they stay at the top of the stack rankings. Now, I know you're looking for the secret code. That's why you're listening to these podcasts. That's why you want to improve. You want to get better. We always got to remember that success, true success, repeatable success, typically takes years to accomplish. I've always loved the quote, there's no elevator to the top. You got to take the stairs. Well, that's true. What are secrets about then? Like why are secrets something that we're looking for in sales? Why do I say this is a secret today? Well, I want to rebrand secrets inside of the In Between Sales Calls podcast. I want to rebrand these as success habits because the real secrets is what do I need to keep doing every single day to be successful? There's a success habit that top performers do that separates them from everyone else. It took me a long time to realize what this was too for my career. So I'm going to give you a little story so you can understand where I was coming from and maybe you can relate too. And when at the end of it, you're going to see how this success habit is something that you can start doing right now and it'll make a huge impact. I remember vividly, just like it was yesterday, back in the early 2000s, in my first sales career, same place I was for the past 17 years, by the way, showing up to work, and it starts at 8 o'clock. And so when it's your first career outside of college, 8 o'clock isn't always the easiest thing to do, get there by 8 o'clock and actually start at 8 o'clock. And so there I am, rushing into the office, the clock's ticking for 8 o'clock, running to get some coffee, and then getting over to the sales bullpen. So we had all these cubes in the middle of the office where there's just one side of cubes and there's a bunch on the other side of the cubes. And we would have to line up in the gauntlet. So everyone's facing each other and there's just like a long row of everyone. And at 8 o'clock sharp, the boss would come in and he would put us all in a role play to get us ready to make phone calls. So what was this role play? This role play was he would ask you to call him as the customer and you'd have to set up an appointment with him. And you didn't know him from before. You're just cold calling someone over the phone. And so you had to do it live in front of all of your peers, all the other sales reps in the office with objections and everything, the whole gamut. Now, I want you to picture me coming into the office fuzzy from the night before. I definitely stayed out too late. And this was every single day of the week. It was challenging. And it started at 8 o'clock. I don't know if you can relate. If you can relate, I want you to raise your hand right now in the car, wherever it is that you are, and just say, yeah, I know what that's like. That role play was something that we dreaded, us sales reps dreaded every single morning. That's where we got embarrassed. That's where we were scared to be called on. And I bet other people out there, the top reps, thought it was pretty funny just to see us squirm and struggle in a role play with the boss. Now, every so often, though, we did get some volunteers and it would be one of the top reps and they'd say, yeah, boss, let's role play. And they would be amazing. I'm not saying that just because we were saved from having to volunteer or having to role play. I'm saying that because they literally sounded great. They sounded great in the role play. They even sounded great in the phones afterwards. I mean, there's no question why they were a top sales rep. I mean, they were the best. I mean, of course they would do great. And these people, these top sales reps, they were not just the best in that role play, they were the best at all sales activities. I mean, whether it's a company team meeting, they would volunteer and do things there. They set the most appointments every single day. They got the most prospects. They closed the most deals. And they even did presentations, live presentations in front of the whole company often. Can you think of these types of people in your company? Maybe it's a sales rep, maybe it's a sales manager, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone else. But these people are always so polished. They're so great. And in my mind, I thought that if I was going to be great like that, it was going to take years and years and years of experience. Once I figured out what it was, though, what that secret was, I was amazed that I could have actually applied it back then. The secret of these top sales reps, the reason why they were so good all the time, wasn't just about preparation. Because you probably are thinking, oh, it's because they're more prepared than anybody else, Derek. That's probably why. Well, it's not just about preparation. The secret is they role play. Now, let me explain a little about role play, because that's the secret of today's session. It's about role play. Role play itself is how we actually get better in sales. Role play is when you're verbally saying something, you're delivering your talk track, your message, you're practicing being in front of the customer, you're practicing out loud, doing an activity, doing an action without actually doing it live in front of a customer. We need to understand this distinction between preparation and role play. And the best way that I can explain it is by relating it to working out in a gym. So if you're working out at the gym, let's say you're looking around at the exercises that you want to do, you can spend all day long looking at the exercises and thinking about which one you're going to do when and how many you're going to do. And then eventually you actually have to do the exercise. Well, the thinking and the planning of which exercises you're going to do, that's like preparation in sales. And actually doing it, meaning saying it verbally out loud for people to hear or just for yourself, that's you doing the actual reps of the exercise. Now let's go back to the top sales reps in my example from before. So back in early 2000s, I'd come in groggy, hating the 8 o'clock role play. What are the top sales reps doing? Well, they woke up at their house and they got ready for the day just like I did. Probably woke up a little bit earlier, because I'm just basically stumbling out of bed, but they probably woke up a little bit earlier. They got ready. And as they're getting ready, guess what they're doing? They are putting their mind in the situation that they're talking to the boss, our boss, at that 8 o'clock role play, and they are pretending that the boss is calling on them, and they are calling back as a customer and going through objections and using their value propositions and their talk track and setting an appointment and closing for the next step. And they do that. And then they do it again. Maybe as they're in the shower, and then they do it again as they're getting their clothes on. Then they do it again as they're getting in the car. And then they do it again as they're driving along the road. And they do it again as they drive on the freeway. And they're doing it over and over and over again. And then at 7:55 or whenever it is that they walk through that door, they've probably practiced maybe 10 times or more. And so when they come in and they're ready for the role play and they volunteer, they says, "I'm ready, boss, let's go." It's not their first time doing it like it was for me and the other rookie reps. We were there going like, "Oh, I'm so rusty. Like this is taking forever." And the top reps going in there saying, "Yeah, I've been practicing all morning. I'm ready. I know what to do. I know how to say this right, and I'm going to be great at it." Now, did the top reps turn around and tell us their secret that they've been role playing all morning and that's why they sound so great? No, of course not. They want to feel like we think that they're amazing. And they were, and they did amazing. And that's why they are the best, because they don't just do that there. They do it everywhere. They spend at least 5 minutes role playing. Now, most people that I've found over my career, most salespeople just wing it. They walk into a room, they walk into the meeting, they walk into an appointment, and they just wing it. They think that they just roll with it on the spot, and they hope it goes well. Now, you could be saying, "Hey, Derek, well, I do that, but I prepare for the meeting." Well, your preparation, again, like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter if you're prepared, if you put everything together. If you don't spend time to actually role play, then you're not really ready for the meeting. You're just as well winging it. And you're just like me in that morning role play at 8 o'clock. Sure, you know the talk tracks, you know what you're supposed to be doing, but you're still doing it for the first time in front of that person. And that's the problem. That's where I say winging it. Remember, the top sales reps out there, they never wait until being in front of a customer to practice something and say it verbally through role play. They practice over and over again, saying it well in advance before they actually have that interaction with the customer. That's why they do so well in those interactions. And you should too. We've got to role play. You can't wing it. Research doesn't mean role play. Remember that. A few weeks ago, I was at a conference where I had a sales rep come up to me and they said, "Derek, I've gotten so much out of your trainings. I really appreciate it. Your academy is awesome." And they said, "I've got a meeting this Friday." I set up an appointment using your strategies. And I said, "Great." I said, "Have you started practicing for the appointment?" And they said, "Well, I'm actually here at this convention because I wanted to find other products and services that I could use for that meeting because I told the customer that there was things that I want to bring to them and show them that I could be a value, I could be a resource." And I said, "That sounds great. So when are you going to start practicing?" Because it was still a couple days away. And he says, "Well, what do you mean? I'm just getting everything ready." I said, "Do you need a role play?" And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, let me give you an example. Let's just say you're the customer and I'm me and I'm going to meet with the customer. I would say, 'Hey, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really appreciate your time. This is what I prepared for the agenda. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my company and what we're all about. And I'd love to learn more about you and your organization. And I actually prepared a few questions for you. And then I have 3 different solutions that I thought that could really make an impact to help you grow your business. Was there anything else that you'd like to add to this?" And then the customer says, "No, I think it sounds good." And then you start talking about your company. And then you ask, "Oh, this is about me. How about you?" Perfect. Great. So I said this to the sales rep that was right next to me. And then he said, "Wow, it sounds great." And then I did it again. I literally did it again right after that, right back to the sales rep. So he heard me talk for 5 minutes where I was pretending to be in this conversation, practicing my message, practicing what I wanted to say, how I wanted to run this meeting. And I went over and over again. And after 5 minutes, I stopped. I said, "How'd that sound?" He says, "It sounds great." I said, "Guess what? I'm ready for that meeting now." because now I've actually practiced having that conversation with the customer, and it's going to make me so much better when I actually have that meeting. I said, what did you learn from this? And he says, well, I learned that I can do that same sort of thing. I don't need to be in front of the customer. I can be anywhere, even in the car, and I can do that. And I need to do that. And I said, yeah, absolutely. If you want to be a top sales rep, it comes down to you role playing what you're going to say, having that conversation, getting yourself in the mindset and actually doing it. So now let's talk about you. How can you prepare for your day? How can you prepare for your week? How can you take what you learned from this first episode of In Between Sales Calls and apply it and actually get results, immediate results in your business? Well, I got a couple different areas that we can talk about first. First one is a call blitz. If you have a cold calling blitz that you need to do, why not take time to role play your talk track with objections and everything beforehand out loud, and do it with yourself. You don't need to have anyone else around you. I'm assuming that you have all your preparation ready to go. You know who you're going to call. You should. You know what you're going to say, your talk track, and you can just spend 5 minutes actually role playing it out loud. That's the key. So if you have a call blitz, I would do that. What about a meeting? If you have a first appointment with a customer, why not, just like the example I gave you earlier, take time to role play as a client and as yourself, having that meeting with that client back and forth, and make sure it sounds great and crisp, and make sure that you're being that type of person that the client is hoping to be meeting with. Practice that for at least 5 minutes if you have a meeting with a client. What about a closing appointment? Why don't you spend 5 minutes asking for the order, handling your price objection, handling any sort of negotiation you need to do in that meeting? Why don't you practice that before the meeting so you're not caught off guard? It just takes 5 minutes. And what about a company meeting? Maybe there's a meeting that you know is coming up that will involve every single person in the company. Maybe you can volunteer to do something live in front of people, a speech, because that sort of thing takes time to practice as well before you do it. Look ahead at your calendar. And all I ask is that you schedule some time in to practice role playing. That's it. Practice role playing. Don't just listen to these podcasts. Don't just think about it and be that person in the gym looking at the exercise and saying, oh, that sounds like a good idea. That sounds like a good idea. Apply it, because this works. This will help you become a top sales performer today. Look ahead in your schedule right now. The schedules that you have of closing appointments, the schedules that you have of proposals, every single activity that you have coming up. I want you to make a conscious effort to schedule time in to role play with someone, with yourself, with your manager, whatever it is, before any of those critical activities that involve you making money. This is the one secret to help you schedule that time to practice your role play. The talk tracks, the objection handling, the meetings, responding to tough questions that you're afraid to happen, but you're going to be ready for them because you practiced, presenting your proposal, handling the objections, asking for the order. This is one secret that if you build this into a habit in your sales career, you are going to be on your path to becoming a top sales professional. So that's it for episode 1. Thank you for allowing me to join you on your sales journey, everyone. See you next time. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, then you have to come check out my free 5-day sales training course of my proven Sales in 21 Days program. I designed it to help you make more money in sales. Whether you're looking for a fast start or just looking to sharpen your skills, you can't afford to miss it. Come get free access today over at www.salesin21days.com. That's www.salesin21days.com. I'd love to have you join the program. See you there.